Alright guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today. For this one, we are going to do another out and about video for you. So this time, I am in Little Ferry in New Jersey, and we're going to have a little look at this place behind me, which is Brix City Brewing. So these guys are one of the best rated breweries in New Jersey. I have actually tried one of their IPAs before I came and visited the brewery, and that was really quite nice. So yeah, we'll do with this one as we always do. We'll go in, we'll have a walk around, we'll see what's available, we'll try some of the beers, and we'll have a little bit of fun. There will be a special guest again in this video, so we'll be doing some kind of collaborative tastings. But let's get started on this one, Brix City Brewing in Little Ferry, New Jersey. Catch you guys in just a second, let's do this. Alright guys, well this is the exterior of Brix City Brewery, and yeah, we're pretty much in the middle of some kind of industrial estate. So yeah, I'm just trying to avoid getting run over by the cars and things like that, because you know, there's a lot of traffic in New Jersey, and to be honest, the standard of driving here is a bit crazy, to be honest with you. I'm just glad I don't have to drive here. But yeah, you can see out the front of this brewery, they've got barrels and things like that. And then you can sit and stand here and have a beer on your way home, or you can come and sit outside under the tent and just enjoy a little beer, which is probably what a lot of people do on like a Thursday or a Friday or something like that when you're getting toward the end of the week. But yeah, this place is pretty much just right off one of the main kind of motorways and things. So yeah, the entrance to the place is just here. You can see they've got all these kind of brewery stickers on the exterior, which is kind of cool. There are your tap room opening times if you want to come along. And yeah, when you come in, you're greeted by this, the kind of psychedelic Brix City Brewing symbol. But yeah, little cobra snake there as well, some bird's eyes, and yeah, you'll find your events just over here. But yeah, if you come through here, you'll see the main bar, and this is quite nice actually, I have to say. The brewery is up here. They've got a bunch of barrels, obviously where they're doing some barrel aging and things. And yeah, the magic happens up here. So they've got a Scafab canning line, you've got your fermentation vessels, other stuff going on over there. But yeah, people have been signing the wall by the looks of it as well. But yeah, put this here, and yeah, you are going to see the first tasting taking place. It was filmed just here, but this is the first beer you're going to have a little look at, the Matthew's Wing. So you'll see that review coming up in just a little second. Alright guys, well, time for tasting number one then at Brix City Brewing in Little Ferry in New Jersey. So joined by...
My name's Matt.
Of Massive Beer Reviews. If you're from New England and you're into beer tubing and stuff like that, you probably know this guy.
Maybe.
But, yeah,
maybe.
Yeah, Matt has picked the first beer for us, so yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited to try this beer. It's called Matthew's Wings. I didn't pick it because of my name.
He's lying. He's lying.
No. I do lie to that. So this is a charity beer for what's called Melissa's Wings. There's actually a really great beer person. Yankee Runner 77 is on Instagram. Go check it out. He does this charity every year where he gets a bunch of breweries to either donate beer or create beers, and a lot of the profits from those breweries go to a benefit for, what is it for again? It's it goes to the Kettering Sloan Cancer Institute for advancing in curing cancer and things like that for a friend that was lost. So it's actually a beer I really wanted to try. James was kind enough to visit the United States just for this beer. He's literally came here. We're doing this review. He's getting on a plane. He's going back home. And we're here now, so I figured, why not try it? Because we wanted to start off with a lager, so it kind of makes sense. Yeah, exactly. Because there was they had a Helles and a Fest beer as well. And this is a 4.6% Pilsner. Okay. Yeah. Not sure as well. We can see first off then.
As you'd expect from the Pilsner, lovely pale golden straw colour. When it poured out, it had just under a finger of fluffy, I would say, cream-coloured head. That's faded away to be just thin foamy layer, thicker ring around the edge of the glass. As I say, the colour of this one's a lovely pale golden straw. You can see it has a bit of natural haze to it, not
very
too
light,
much.
Though.
Yeah,
much less than the Blur one.
Oh yeah. But yeah, very much. Just a natural bit of haze to it. Not too much carbonation visible either.
No, but there was a decent head on it when you first poured it. It takes us 5 minutes to settle. So it settles.
This is the first one, so we'll probably just film here because this is the quietest bit of the brewery. So yeah, we'll do that. But remember the Pilsner as a style. It originated in the city of Pilsen in the Czech Republic. At that time, the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The original brewer was a Bavarian who moved to the city. Everyone thought he was a bit of an arsehole, so he was kicked out 2 years later. That city was lived in by ethnic Germans and ethnic Czechs, about 50%. And that original Pilsner became Pilsner Urquell, or Plzeňský Prazdroj, as the Czechs call it. These days you have probably 2 variants of Pilsner. The Czech one, which is a bit more yeasty and a bit more kind of spicy and floral in terms of its flavour profile, but also creamy in its mouthfeel. The German Pilsner has a bit more dryness to it, mainly from the type of malts and things like that, and it's also a bit cleaner in its mouthfeel. So I think there is, for me at least, there's a distinction between the Czech and the German Pilsner.
Yeah, I always lean to it's that spicier hop, really, for me, that separates the Czech from the German.
Yeah, I would agree on that, yeah. But yeah, your aroma then first. Yeah. See, for me, it smells more like a Helles than a Pils.
I don't know. For me, again, it is malt forward. For more than I thought it would be based off of the look and just it being called a generic Pilsner. So I can see where you're going there. And so it does have a nice malt base to it. Something for me that is like a slightly doughy crackery with a subtle toastiness to it. But nothing too crazy. But I don't think it gets up the Helles level.
Because I mean, it's maybe not quite as dry as maybe I should have said Svetli, because the German Helles is a good bit drier than this, but the Czech Svetli, which is the blonde lager, the Czech blonde lager, that could make sense here, because with a Pilsner you expect floral character or a dry Pilsner malt kind of thing. You expect it just to be a bit more punchy aroma-wise, but quite often with foreign brewed lagers, if you like, they can often smell a bit different, but they'll give you the flavour profile you expect.
Yeah.
So this one's definitely more, as Matt said, it's malt forward. You've got white bread crust in there.
Would you attribute that variance from American ones? Do you think that's more of a yeast phenolic, or is it more just the malts?
I think this one doesn't smell as if it's Czech or German malts. This to me smells like it's
like a generic Pilsner malt, almost a white, like a clean a Pilsner malt with maybe some kind of richer addition to it.
I think it potentially is. Yeah, it doesn't. I mean, I don't know how you describe this. Like the German malts, just if you think of IPAs, American two-row is just oilier and sweeter than German Crystal is. The German Crystal is just drier and it's got a dry sweetness to it. You can kind of smell that in here. The American malts are just, they're just like almost sweeter in a way. And I think the American palate is sweeter than the European palate is. So yeah, for me, this one, it smells wetter, and it smells that the bread just smells thicker and sweeter compared to the German ones. And I mean, what I look for in these beers is authenticity, but you have to remember that when you're reviewing the American ones, is quite often you'll get the right flavours, but they'll just be different nuances, if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense.
And this is the interesting thing when you've got someone who's a European beer reviewer and then an American beer reviewer, because the perspectives are just completely different.
It's like like terroir in beer. It's like terroir in drinking beer. It's like what you drink and where you are kind of dictates your baseline. Even if you know what the traditional bits and bobs of what a beer will be, if you live in an area for so long and you drink the lager from that area, that's what you kind of think of as being lager. You know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, even if you know, as I say, the flavour process will be similar, but if you're growing, even if you grew, for example, just it's barley, and they just treat barley in different ways. Barley in America is going to taste different from barley grown in Germany or Poland or Czech, because of the different soil composition, the different water, and then you're going to use different fertilisers and stuff like that as well. So it's chemistry. It is just chemistry. But I mean, this to me, I think to describe this, the aroma of this is very much like a Czech Svetli, like the blonde lager, because it has that bread crust. It's got the smoothness. There's a bit of brown bread to this as well, like that more grainy brown bready sweetness. The white bread, biscuit or cookie to the American in the American English. Yeah. Is there anything else to say about the malty side of it? No. Because it doesn't. The thing is, it doesn't have such a dry Pilsner malty character, I would say. On the hoppy side as well, slight earthiness to it.
I think it's extremely mild.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. It's quite wet. Like the hoppy character is very wet for me. I don't even get so much in the way of floral. It's like a wet. It's like a fresh, wetly. How do you say? Wet, freshly cut grass. I think is a good way to describe the hoppy component.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, it's all good.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean it's like fresh, wetly cut grass for me. Yeah.
That was one of the words here.
I know.
So that's why he was going to come over and say hi.
Okay. one of Matt's friends came across and we're filming, so we'll go and speak to him in a minute. But yeah, fruity side of things. Green apple.
And honestly, I'm saying for me, it's very much a kind of soft. I don't want to use the word generic hoppy, but it's like the hops here are utilitarian. To me, if I'm pulling out a bunch of fruit from this, I think I'm kind of just I want it to be there more than it is for me. I think the hops are very, very subtle here. I actually would say, you said this is more Helles. This is like someone who wanted to make like something, again, it could be right, something a bit north of the Pilsner, but wanted to drink more like American Agile Lager. That's how it kind of goes for me. Like a drinking beer, basically, like you just rip in these, like, you don't drink one of these, you drink 40.
Oh yeah, it's a tankable lager, as we call it, or tannable lager, but yeah, so for me, fruitiness is a little bit of pear, a little bit of apricot, fresh green apple, something like that, a little bit of fresh green apple. Very mild.
All very mild.
Yeah. I think it's time to taste this again. So what was it, Matthew's Wings it was called? Matthew's Wings. Slangy guys. Very sweet actually.
But the sweetness here reminds me of, it almost tastes like the sweetness is coming from something other than malts, which is weird. Like it doesn't come off as like, oh, well, maybe. You know what it actually tastes like to me? It tastes like a lager that has a subtle little bit of butterscotch going on. Just a touch, like a line on it, where it adds this little bit of like, more of those original sweetness to it, which is typically, an off-flavor thing, but on a little tiny lager, it's not nothing big. But it's sweet. Actually, probably more like corny sweet, like corny. Maybe I'm leaning more mouthfeel because it has this kind of like little bit flabby kind of mouthfeel to it, where it's not too bitter.
Yeah.
I like it, but it's quite a bit different than it's just called a generic Pilsner, so I don't know what they're shooting for.
I mean, I'm going to say with this one, to me, this isn't a Pils. It comes across more like it's not spicy enough and floral enough to be a Czech Pils. It's not.
It's almost like an American blonde ale that wants to be a Pilsner. Like it almost has an ale feel to it as opposed to a lager feel.
Yeah, it does feel more like a blonde ale than a lager, to be honest. That's pretty much spot on. Yeah. I think more blonde ale. It almost has a bit. I mean, I wanted to say almost that cream ale is something I've come across once or twice.
Actually, that probably is a little bit better than blonde ale. Because with me, cream ales typically have a little bit more of a flabby mouthfeel to it, and that kind of makes sense.
It almost has a little bit of this vanilla marshmallow-y type flavour.
I think that was that sweetness I was talking about when I was trying to be like, maybe a little butterscotch. It wasn't so much butterscotch. There was like not an artificial sweetness, but a sweetness that I typically don't get from a malt-based beer at this ABV level. It was just foreign from what you typically get.
Yeah.
Bit of Pilsner.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say that to me this is not a Pils. It's cream ale, blonde ale type thing. It's a nice beer, but as I say, it just doesn't fit that style category. That shouldn't matter too much, but I would say to them, they need to change the marketing of this beer in that sense. But I lived in Germany and spent a lot of time in Czech too, so I'm a bit weird about that. But that's just me.
That's the thing. Yeah, the one thing you will find if you do come to the United States is that some breweries might be a little bit hesitant to call a beer a cream ale because it might not sell. If they call it a Pilsner, it might sell because the general public is just like very weird when it comes to that stuff. You'll have a lot of breweries over here you'll have like if it's a red IPA, they'll just call it an IPA. Even though it's only a word, you shouldn't base it off of what it drinks like, as opposed to what it says. But or it could just be, it came out to win. It is what it is.
Yeah, that's the thing. Oh, we've got little doggies come to say hello to us. Hello, pal. Yeah. Yeah. He's just chilling, like literally, like here. I don't know if we can.
What's his name?
Charles.
Or hers? Charles?
Yeah.
King Charles.
Yeah, he's chilling.
Go poopy.
Yeah. But if we for flavour of the beer then, bread crust is the base. Not so much cracker in this. It's like a sweet brown bread and white bread on top.
Well, like you said about the cream ale thing, that really kind of strikes the chord for me. For me, cream ale very much comes off almost like, I don't know how to put it.
White bread with marshmallow embedded,
almost like the. Do you ever eat a really runny oatmeal or a porridge or something?
Oh yeah,
like that
good,
level of sweet, that kind of sweetness.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That is definitely fair. In terms of the it's got a little bit of like a biscuity. It's got a little bit of like a biscuity, butterscotchy sweetness in the middle of the palate too.
And that's the thing where like you were saying, like marshmallow, whatever I was saying, kind of like a butterscotch. There's something in there that does come off. I would just say generic confectionery. You know what I mean? But not overly sweet. It's like you said. It's like there's that. When you're talking about a crystal malt, for me, crystal malt, as far as a malt goes, it comes off very much almost leaning towards like a hard candy kind of sweetness, whereas like some of these oated malts, very much more kind of like confectionery, kind of powdered sugar. That's the vibe you get off it. And this is kind of like somewhere floating in between, but not ultra sweet like those kind of malts. You know what I mean? A bit more subdued, like a watered down version of a butterscotch. Something along those lines.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's fair. Yeah. You don't get the dry Pilsner malty character out of this one you kind of should expect from a Pils. The hoppy side of things is very wet too. There's a bit of earthiness, a bit of herbal character, a wee bit of floral note, but again it's not like a spicy floral note that you would expect from the Czech Saps or Žatec hop as they call it. Front curve of your tongue, wet, freshly cut grass type thing.
Yeah. Very much, again, like you said about the nose, it's very subdued. Nothing aggressive about the bitterness here, like a very soft bitterness. I would still call it like a pepperiness, but like a very very fine ground white pepper, like very very soft, nothing ultra aggressive. And then I always like maybe it's the sweetness making me think that I always need like a little subtle like underripe melon, maybe something along those lines. If I'm gonna go with a fruitiness, but honestly, outside of that, maybe a touch of that. Slightly really watered down, slight addition of that green apple, and that's probably about it for me.
Yeah. For me, the fruitiness. You've got that front third of your palate, the oily bubble with the fruity esters. It has this, dry apricot, candied banana type note to it. I think is. So we have these little candied banana sweets back home. It really reminds me of those.
Yeah.
So yeah, oily pear, candy banana, a bit of apricot. Yeah, it's very kind of, this is definitely, it's not a Pils. It should not be marketed as a Pils, I would say that. It really is more like a kind of creamy ale or golden ale.
Just like, is it an ale side of things?
It's too sweet to be a Kolsch.
Yeah.
It's too sweet to be a Kolsch.
Yeah, honestly, you saying cream ale makes the most sense to me. You know, like...
And I've not even had that style very much. We don't get those that much. But
Yeah.
just the sweetness makes me think cream ale.
That's spot on. That's exactly what it should be called.
Yeah. Yeah, no, cream ale I think is probably what this beer should be in this case. I'd be curious to see the brew sheet and see what they've actually done with this, but yeah.
Oh, that you could probably show us.
Yeah. I'm curious about this one, but mouthfeel wise, yeah, top end a light body, bottom end a mid, smooth carbonation, oily and slick to a degree, IBU wise, 20.
Maybe, because it's such a light beer, it's got to be down there.
Yeah, it's got to be down there for sure. Malt base, a bit dry underneath, dense and slightly smooth in the middle, touch of sweetness on top. So you've got this kind of candied, almost milk sugar type sweetness to this one, and then just a little bit of oily fruit.
Done and done.
Done.
It's honestly, it's not. I'm not gonna say I'm going to gag over this beer. I don't mind it. Obviously, I'm drinking the whole thing, but when you go into this and it says Pilsner, that's how you get it. I always find myself fighting against it mentally. So like that's what I'm kind of thinking about, and that's what I wanted, but that's not what I got.
Yeah, I mean that because in a way I have to admit after this one, when I saw this is a Pils, I was like, all right, okay, but there was a Helles on tap.
Now you
now I wish I'd had the Helles, to be honest. That's the thing.
Or at least side by side, get a small pour to Helles and go back and forth to see where it lands.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Yeah. So yeah, an interesting beer, but definitely not a Pils. More cream ale or something.
Your cream ale's spot on.
Yeah.
So don't second guess yourself. That's great.
No. Okay. So 4.6% Matthew's Wings.
Correct.
It's called a beer for a very good cause, but not a Pilsner.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Right.
You should still drink it. That's what we're saying.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that's the end of our first tasting here. We'll maybe do another 2, I think, while we're here, and that'll be that. Catch you guys in just a second with something else. Thank you to Matt again for joining. We'll see what we pick next. It'd be cool to do a few together. Yeah, let's do that. Catch you guys in a second. Alright guys, so this is the tap list here at Brix City Brewing on the 18th of September. I'm not sure how well you're going to see the top part of the list there, because the light just reflects off it and the camera doesn't like that apparently. So on the left hand side, just over here, there is the Brix Fest, which is a 5.8% fest beer. Oktoberfest is very big here, but then you've got Matthew's Wings, which is a Pilsner at 4.6, the Little Ferry Light at 4.2% ABV. If you move over to the second row, you have Jock Jams, which is a fruited New England double IPA, 8% ABV. The Grateful Jams, which is another New England double IPA, 8% ABV. Then they have underneath that the 2018 Poco Fuerte, which is an American strong ale at 10%. You don't see that very often. Then they have the Zesty Jams, a fruited New England double IPA, 8% again. Jams, of course, is kind of one of the names that they use quite often. I guess you could say it's a line of beers that they do, or a series. But yeah, if you come over here to the third row, Sure as the Sun, a keto sour at 6% ABV with raspberry, mango and lemon, also a bit of lactose. Then they have the Fest beer listed again. Power Jams, which is a 10.5% New England triple IPA. Helles Upon Us, a 5% Helles Lager. The Just Another double IPA at 8% ABV on the top right there. Set Break, which is a New England IPA at 6.5. Just Another IPA, the same New England IPA 6.5. Then Gloria, which is a Belgian a Belgian blonde, at 6% ABV. So that is your tap list here at Brix City Brewing in Little Ferry in New Jersey on the 18th of September 2023. So there you are. Alright guys, well, time for tasting number 2 then here at Brix City. So we're going this time for a style that Brix City are better known for, and this apparently is one of their kind of core range beers. Have you reviewed this one on your channel before?
I don't think I've reviewed it. I'm pretty sure I've had it before, but I don't think I've reviewed it.
Okay. Well, this one, anyway, this is Set Break A 6.5% New England Hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA. And this one is hopped with Citra, Mosaic and Motueka. We know all these hops quite well. Citra and Mosaic are, of course, American. 14% alpha acid. Citra's going to give you that juicy mango sort of thing, bit of lemon lime in New England. And Mosaic is kind of tangerine oranges with a little bit of earthiness in its green component. Motueka is a New Zealand hop, 8%, and it's going to give you quite a juicy, distinctive, limey character. Yeah, I think that's everything we really need to say to introduce the thing. Appearance-wise, quite pale, I would say. Quite a pale fruit juicy colour, this one.
Honestly, for me, in northeastern United States, or United States in general, this is Merriam-Webster Dictionary New England Hazy IPA. This is exactly what almost Treehouse, this is exactly what all those breweries shoot for. As far as color, SRM, the whole nine. Well, what do you use? You don't do SRM. What do you do for color scale?
We EBC.
EBC.
Yeah.
So it's like it's spot on. That turbid, hazy, butternut squash soup, almost not in butterscotch, like a potato leek soup. It's kind of like exactly the color that they shoot for.
Yeah.
You know.
So this is a little 5-ounce pour, which I think is like 150 millilitres, roughly, something like that.
In those imperial units.
Yeah.
Those not non-freedom units.
The non-freedom units, in the metric units, the scientific units. Yeah, we've been laughing about this all the day. American units make no sense.
They do to me.
They do to me, freedom. Yeah, America. But yeah. Yeah, it came out with a 2/3 finger of a frothy, I'd say cream-coloured head rather than perfect white. Kind of bubbly on the bottom, foamy on the top. Yeah, for me it's like a sort of pineapple juice type colour.
Yeah, very much. Yeah, like almost like a pineapple grapefruit juice blend, kind of like you'd see, like
Yeah. Nice. It looks as it should for a New England IPA. That's fair. Yeah, nose then.
Ooh, very fruity.
Yeah.
Very fruity and very green.
It's a very soft IPA, that, isn't it?
Well, I mean, traditionally, that's what New England's supposed to be. You're supposed to drop out all bitterness. You know, if it's going to be a New England style IPA, you're trying to bring as much fruitiness to the table with as little bitterness or harshness to the table, and it's kind of doing that to a tea.
Because, I mean, I always talk about, for me, when I do New Englands, I think there's 6 ways they can go. They can be a bit more farmhousey and yeasty, rye lean and grainy, barley malt bready, wheaty bitey, oaty creamy, or sweet. This, to me, there's oatiness in there, but it really leans more toward a barley malt bread, and I think the yeast is showing its head quite a little bit in this
There's
one.
a little subtle, like almost like bubblegumish kind of phenolic on it that you're getting from the yeast.
Yeah, and it's a little bit, it's very slightly farmhousey as well. Like you've got that dry, crackery, woody, bready sort of thing.
I just can't get over the this like it's almost like a tropical tropical fruit, mango tropical fruit leaning with a bunch of stone fruit. With I'm not saying there's lactose in it, but it almost feels like there's a subtle dose of lactose. It's probably a heavy oat addition that's kind of making that kind of come up, but it has this kind of ultra soft sweetness, perception of sweetness. You obviously can't smell sweetness, but this perception of it's going to be super soft.
And I mean, we kind of touched on this in the Pilsner review that we did, so I'll say Pilsner. It's America, you know, different grains come across differently when they grow in different places. American oats for me are a lot drier than European oats, and just like the wheat over here is a lot smoother than the European wheat, which is more spicy. So
with the ABV of this in mind and how light it is, I would say a nice portion of this beer is brewed with brewer sugars, like a dextrose, as opposed to actually all grains. Like this is not an all grain beer. This has actually a decent amount of fermentable brewer sugar, so they can keep that malt perception down.
Because that's probably a different approach from a lot of European breweries will use only wheat, oats, and barley. They won't really play around with the sugars.
Almost
that much.
everybody does over here. Actually, if you ever want to notice how much brewer sugar is in a New England IPA, just go on Trillium's website, look at their beers, because they actually list all the ingredients that go into their beers, and every single one of them contains dextrose, which is brewer sugar.
Oh, okay, interesting. Yeah. But yeah, bread crust, white bread pretty much all the way. Teeny bit of wheaty bitiness in the back of the nose. The oats are there, creamy and dry. Not sweet. It's not got like. It's not really a sweet.
To me, it's going to have a sweetness to it, but that sweetness is going to come off again, the word I keep using is confectionery, like a very powdered sugar kind of sweetness as opposed to a granular sugar. There's something a bit more sweet.
It reminds me, actually, just on that note, it reminds me of a sweet we have back home, which is called Parma Violets. And if you think of like lemon sherbet, but turn it into like a kind of candied blackcurrant or something like that.
Okay.
It's Parma Violets are very much like blackcurrant sherbet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That sounds freaking delicious.
They are very good. They are very good. Yeah. Green component is as you'd expect. Remember, New England IPAs use late addition and dry hopping for the most part, which this is what I was saying earlier about drivers being crazy in Jersey. Yeah. I don't know if you guys even heard that, but yeah, someone wheel spinning trying to get on the road. So late addition and dry hopping give you mainly flavour and aroma. Late addition hopping gives you a little bit of bitterness, and it translates to a very bright green component rather than early addition hopping, which is used in West Coast as well as the other two, and that gives you that big deep dank thing. So the green component in this is very floral, quite zesty, and the grassiness is quite zesty in this one, I would say too.
Yeah, it's very green beer. And the one thing I keep thinking about when I'm smelling this is you have to keep in mind this is 6.5%. Like this smells like an 8%.
Yeah.
IPA, double IPA, but it's not. It's 6 and change.
The thing I would also add into this as well, we were talking about this earlier, is for me the single IPAs in the US are a lot more enjoyable body-wise than the European ones are, because when I first started drinking beers like this, they felt thick as hell. But then over time, you just like, it's not thick enough, and you end up going to the triples and the doubles and the triples. But coming over here, like an American New England, an American brewed New England, it just has more body to it, which I can enjoy. And that's what I want from those beers, is a thicker body. The European ones just feel a bit thinner. So I always end up on doubles and triples.
And honestly, that's like, I'm team low ABV. I love low ABV beers, and it doesn't pose a problem. Like, I want that experience. I want that expressiveness of a double IPA, and I'm just, in the United States, you can get that at 6. You can get it at 5% over here. You know what I mean? So it's nice, because it's like I want something, a big, nice, rich, hoppy hazy. I don't have to go to 8%. I can get something that's 5, and I can have 2 of them if I want instead of one big one,
Yeah, no, exactly. Fruity-wise, I mean, what would you say on the fruits?
It's stone fruit, candied stone fruit, leaning in, but tropical fruit for me is the leader in the clubhouse here. Yeah. It's very much like it's just, honestly, it's probably one of the most expressive fruit. It's across the board, because honestly, every single IPA is going to have citrus in it. You're going to get orange, you're going to get pineapple. It's going to be there at some point. I think that's almost a given for almost all of them. I think we just take it for granted that it's going to be there and talk about the other things. But the really big part of it here is this tropical fruit. It's almost like a melange, like not to be like as generic as possible, but it's like a tropical fruit leaning with a subtle stone fruit, and the stone fruit has a candiness to it, almost like a caramel. Like you cooked it and caramelized it slightly. It has a little bit more perceptual sweetness to it. It smells really good. I think this is actually going to be a fantastic beer.
See, I mean, for me, I think I'm getting a lot. You get juicy mango from the Citra. I get the sharper peach, and that's kind of balanced out by the juicy lime from the Motueka and also the orangey notes. I actually find this one is quite balanced between tropical and
across the board. Like nothing's too boisterous.
It doesn't lean one way or the other. Actually, I'd be curious to see whether it's a 33 blend or whether it's like 50 Citra or something else like that. That wouldn't surprise me if it's 50 Citra, 25 on the Motueka Mosaic. But yeah, anyway, have a taste.
Cheers.
So this was the Set Break, I forgot the name there, Flanger.
Less than I thought it was going to be. Probably comes off. I think it's tasty, but the nose is definitely more vibrant than what you thought the taste. It's still quite tasty. It's still quite fruity. That bit of green is there, but everything's just a little bit less than what I thought it was going to be based off of the nose. So.
It's very. I find this one. My first impression would be that this is very oaty, but it's very smooth. So, based on what you said a minute ago, I'm wondering if the smoothness in the beer is because of the dextrose.
No, the smoothness in the beer, I think, is because of it's low ABV. It's heavily oded and it's low ABV. So it's almost like the nose is giving you like a double IPA, regular IPA kind of expressiveness. But it just, a lot of these beers have a hard time holding up to that expressiveness when it's at this lower ABV level.
Yeah.
It could be a brew. Almost every single hazy IPA you have in the United States has vegetables in it. So it's not a thing where it's like, I think this has it in it. No, all of them do. Almost certainly. I shouldn't say it exclusively, but it's just that's the case. How New England IPAs keep their malt bill down to let the hops express and not come off as malty, which is viewed as negative, is that brewer sugar. But this comes off, honestly, it comes off under a little less sweet than I thought it would be. Finishes a little bit dry, has a nice little soft little bitter, nothing too crazy. And all the things that we talk about on the nose as far as the fruit goes, where it be that kind of medley you're talking about, where it's like 30-30-30 kind of thing going on, all of it's there, but almost like each one's a little bit more muted than I thought it was going to be based off of it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for me, it's the flavour profile on this one's kind of standard there. Red crusty base, cracker, white bread, quite an airy white bread in this one. You can feel that there is wheat in this beer, I'm pretty sure about that, because you're getting that denser white bread on top. The oaty note is there. The oats are not so creamy in this, they're a little bit drier, I think, especially as you go out toward the edge of the palate. In the dead centre of your tongue, teeny little bit of that Werther's Original butter candy type thing. The back third of your palate is similar, but the bread crust, which is a bit drier, bit of the crack, not so much cracker on the back third of the palate. You can feel the bready layers like lighter and more airy. The wheat creeps over the top. Teeny bit of bitiness, but not so much. And then you've got the yeasty side of this beer, and the yeast has a wee bit of that like farmhousey, fresh bready sort of note. I think
it's. What was I going to say? And this is more of a conversation towards IPA in general. So I think a lot of IPA and double IPA is purposely under attenuated to where they come off sweet on purpose, so they leave residual sugar in the beer. This is fully attenuated. There's no kind of leftover sugars in this beer. It's sweet because it's an IPA. But it's not sweet because it was under attenuated and there was just residual sugars from the brew that the yeast didn't eat and poop out alcohol. I think this is like a very purposely made hazy IPA. Like a lot of brewers would make this beer and it would come off way too sweet. And I think I appreciate that it's not overly sweet. I appreciate that it's purposely undersweetened slightly. I just think it's really tasty. I just wish it was a little bit more vibrant like the nose showed me.
Yeah, that's interesting. Green components quite, like respect, wee bit of earthiness from the mosaic, otherwise more oily and floral. I wouldn't be surprised if this is using incognito or cryo oil on the mosaic of the Citra, because it just, you see, it has that really oily smooth.
I don't think there's any addition beyond what they wrote on there, and I don't think it's cryo hops. I don't think it's anything. And what I think is that, again, to lean back, I think it's a low ABV, so it's allowing the more subtler parts of the hop additions to show. So it's like, it's not so much that it's like, okay, there's an addition that's adding a greenness or bitterness. It's like brews go so far out of their way to have a big boisterous beer. They're trying to temper that green portion of sugar. They're trying to temper the bitterness. I think here that it's just there because it's there. Like, it's not like a thing they're trying to mask, and it comes off a little bit more because it's by no way, shape, or form a lager-like beer, but it's like in a lager, it's really, really hard to hide any kind of negativity or flaws because there's not a lot of stuff going on. I don't think there's so much hops saturated in here that it's going to hide anything. I think that bitterness is showing because there's not a ton of ingredients in here. Again, it goes back to my theory that it's brewed specifically in a specific way where they're maximizing all the ingredients rather than just like dosing the crap out of it with hops just to make it ultra hoppy. When you do that, you're going to have that little bit of green go through. That's why it comes off.
Yeah. Oh, it's interesting that. Yeah, I think for me the greenness is very oily. Whenever I get a beer like this, I think I always think like cryo oil or something, because the T90 pellets give you that. You just don't have that oily, smooth character. That's what kind of comes from me. It's interesting. This is the thing when you review stuff with other beer reviewers, you come at it from a completely different perspective, and it makes you think.
Well, it's one, and the reason why I say that maybe this is a better way to explain it is that if you use all grain and you throw a crazy amount of hops, it's like trying to have a conversation in there. You have the mill growing going and it's grinding. You have the music playing. Other people are talking. We can talk to each other, but it's a little harder to hear each other because there's so much noise going on. When you add like multiple grains, different kind of grains, all this kind of stuff, and you add a copious amounts of hops, those more subtly portioned to show that wouldn't necessarily show up on Citra, on Mosaic, not necessarily maybe Rebecca, but they're harder to come through. When you're talking about something that probably has brewer's sugar in it. You're talking about something that is lowerish in ABV, 6.5%. The mouthfeel is not super turbid, so it allows that oily thing that might be there, but you never see it because it's in this double IPA that's screaming at you. It's coming through a little bit more. That's my guess. And I could be totally wrong, but that's how it comes off to me.
Oh, it's interesting for sure, actually. Yeah. Fruity-wise, what we would say is
like you said, it's kind of like a cross board for me. It definitely leans tropical, but I'm getting again pineapple, citrus always going to be there. There's definitely a stone fruit portion of the show. There's a peachy nectarine thing going on, but it really is this kind of mango, non-star fruit kind of tropical fruitiness that really kind of, for me, if you're going to go evens, it's going to be 30-30, and then this tropical fruit's going to be a 40 in here.
Because for me, I think the thing with this one for me is to think about the impact flavour. We were talking about sake earlier. It's that's something you think about in sake. For me, the impact on this one is peach and lime. Then it mellows out and it shows you the mango and the kind of tangerine side. So I get a sharp peach and a sharp lime when you take the beer in, but then it mellows out and shows you like the mango, the apricot, and the tangerine. That's kind of what I'm getting from it. Yeah. But yeah, it gives you in the aftertaste, it's the apricot and papaya type notes from the citra that linger there. So that
for me, but you have to understand, this is the cool thing about beer and stuff. Like for me, tropical fruit in general, like when I eat a mango or whatever, there always is. Passion fruit is probably the best example of this. Is that there is a natural kind of tart, sour acidity that doesn't exist across the other fruits for me. Like, there's obviously acidity in citrus fruits and things like that, but for me, tropical fruits have always had like kind of like an acidic expressiveness that has been way more. And now I'm talking about actually eating the fruit. So with this, it has this kind of tropical fruit kind of vibe to it, almost like when you not dry hop, but you do like a dose of addition of tropical fruit to a beer. It almost, not that they come off as like sour IPAs, but it has this acidic / sourness kind of to it that makes me automatically think of tropical fruit. So it could just be me, because we all taste things differently.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting actually how it goes together. Mouthfeel wise for me, mid-bodied as you'd expect from the style, carbonation smooth. Does lean more toward that creamy side of thing. The dextrose is probably what's doing that. IBUs are standard 30. Malt base smooth for the most part, little touch of sweetness, and then you've got that juicy fruity side of things coming out of it too. I think that's it. Yeah.
This is my favorite beer I had all day.
That's interesting, yeah. So Set Break, one of the kind of flagship beers here at Brix City Brewing. Really enjoyed this one. Thank you to Matt again for joining in this taste, and I'm going to do another one or two when I'm here. We'll see how we get on, because we need to get back and get pizza. Yeah.
Or at least order pizza for my wife.
No, yeah. Otherwise that would be bad. Catch you guys in a second with something else. Cheers.
Cheers, y'all.
Alright guys, so as you always have in American breweries too, you can buy some merch. So it seems you can buy yourself a pint glass, or you can get a few different varieties of hats, some beanie hats with the baubles and things on them. You can also get yourself a nice Brix City coaster. That is pretty cool actually, I have to say that. You can get a little idea of the prices there as well. But they have like a kind of baseball type jacket. They have a t-shirt here as well. Some grey hoodies and things like that. You can get a baby grow by the looks of it too. Just tank tops, things like that. Because it's America, you can get your baseball caps here. Some sort of like 80s style, like retro style t-shirts as well. You can see, you can get your little kind of can cooler sort of thing, and it looks pretty nice. They've got a good selection of different t-shirts and things like that here. So that's a very, very quick look at the merchandise here at Brix City Brewing in Little Ferry. So there you are. That's another little segment for you guys. Catch you in a second with something else. Alright guys, well, time for tasting number 3 then here at Brix City, and for this one we are going to stick to the style that this brewery are probably best known for. We're just going to go up the ABV scale a little bit. So the next beer we're going to have a little look at is the Power Jams. This one comes in at 10.5% ABV, and as you might be able to tell from the appearance, this one is a New England Hazy Imperial Triple, whatever you want to call it, IPA. So when the beer poured, it had, about a 2/3 finger of a frothy, I would have said kind of cream coloured head once again. That's faded away to be a thinner foamy layer. Some bumpier bubbles on the surface of the liquid there, but of course it gets a little bit foamier the further up you go. But you can see colour-wise, this one is a little bit richer in its colour than the Set Break one was. It's got this really nice kind of rich mango juice type colour to it, I would say. So yeah, colour of this one is pretty damn nice, really rich and kind of yellowy, but a little bit, yeah, you can just tell this beer is a little bit heavier, to be honest with you. If you look at the opacity of this one, you can see there it's pretty damn thick. Again, when it comes to these beers, the level of haze depends on the oak content, wheat content, and to a degree what yeast you use. So it's not really a surprise that when you're going to a 10.5% triple IPA, the opacity is bigger. So yeah, let's have a little look at the nose on this one and see what it's all about. I think we've said all we really need to in terms of the appearance. It looks kind of similar to the last New England IPA that we had. Now, I have to say, aroma-wise, this beer really isn't too pungent. It's actually very relaxed in terms of its aroma. Yeah, I mean, aroma-wise, it's really smooth and almost really kind of creamy in a sense. This one leans more toward the oaty side of things. There's a lot of barley malt in there. As Matt was saying in our last tasting, there's probably quite a little bit of dextrose in this one. But yeah, the backbone of the beer, fresh white bready bread crust. On top of that, you get a little bit of, you get a little bit of a sweeter kind of brown bread in there. Fresh white bready bread, fresh fluffy white bread. Yeah, fresh fluffy white bread, and then yeah, on top of that, you can smell the thicker character of the wheat. There's a wee touch of wheaty bitiness in the back of the nose, but then yeah, you've got the oats, and the oats show you a mixture of kind of creaminess and dryness in this beer. Yeah, that's really interesting. There's definitely a little bit of that kind of Parma Violet, kind of like black curranty sherbet type thing that I was talking about in this beer. So yeah, you've got a lovely little bit of, you can smell that, but then you've also got this little bit of like Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing coming out of it too, and you kind of expect that when it's a triple IPA. It makes sense that the beer is, going to be like that, to be honest with you. One thing I should point out about this one before we talk about the green component is that this beer does contain, it contains cryo hops, and I think, as I say, it contains a little bit of dextrose sugar. So you can smell in the green component that it's very, very smooth and kind of oily. It's quite obvious in this one. But yeah, for me, the green component, you've got a little touch of earthiness in there, but not a lot. Mainly a big oily floral aromaticity coming out of this one, and you've also got a nice kind of bright grassiness in there. Yeah, the green component, as I say, really lovely, big, smooth and oily. It's great. On the fruity side of things, it is kind of what you'd expect. You know, Citra and Mosaic are hops that we know very well. It's got a lovely little bit of a peachy sharpness to it. A little bit of that smoother passion fruit as well. Yeah, lovely kind of smooth passion fruit, and you've also got a little bit of that, yeah, you also have this little bit of kind of, you've got a lot of juicy mango coming out of this one, which is great. little bit of like apricot and papaya just sitting underneath that, and then you've also got a really nice kind of you've also got this lovely kind of big oily tangerine note coming out of this beer. But as I say, these are things you would expect of the Citra and the Mosaic hop. So yeah, I mean, aroma wise this is really nice, lovely big oily fruity characters coming out of it. Yeah, it's great. It kind of smells exactly as you'd expect. There's not really anything surprising about this beer when you consider what style it is when we're talking about the aroma. So yeah, let's have a taste of this one then and see what it's all about. Very curious about this one. This is the Power Jams, a 10.5% New England Triple IPA, our third beer here at Brix City. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Yeah, I'm going to say straight away, this beer is absolutely lovely. It's kind of like what we had before, but it's just oilier, it's creamier, it's really nice, it is really, really nicely done this. Gets a big thumbs up from me. Everything I'd want from this style. Yeah, let's just take a little bit of time then and break this down then. Middle third of the palate. So, the backbone of the beer is absolutely that fresh white bready bread crust. On top of that you get a kind of wholemeal brown bready sort of thing. Then you get that dense and slightly sweet white bread. You can feel the wheat sitting on top of that, just densifying it out. But I do wonder, just from what Matt has been saying, if the kind of smoothness and sweetness in the bread in these beers is due to the presence of dextrose. I do wonder about that actually. But yeah, as I say, you can feel that denser, wheaty character coming out of this one, which is interesting. And yeah, on that middle third of the palate, you can feel, if you go down the middle line of the front third of your palate, yeah, if you go down the middle line of your palate, you can feel the oats are just that little bit creamier and that little bit denser. And then yeah, as you move out toward the edges of the palate, you're definitely getting a little bit more of a kind of oaty dryness. In the dead centre of your palate, you're getting that big Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of sweetness coming out of this one. So that's interesting too. But yeah, it's really nice that you get a little bit of biscuit out of this one into the aftertaste as well, or cookie as Americans would say. Yeah, I like that with this one. I really do like how that goes together. Back third of your palate is quite similar. You've got the bread crust in the base, you've got the brown bready layer which feels a little bit lighter and more airy, the white bready layer which feels a bit lighter and more airy, the wheat creeps on top of that. You've got that more, you do have that more kind of dense, sweety, bitey sort of thing coming out of it, which I think is great. And then you've also got that nice, yeah, you do also have that really kind of nice, how would you say, that kind of, yeah, just a bit of wheaty bitiness there. So the yeasty character that sits on top of that, it's like a dense, white bready, brown bready mix, a little bit of like woody and crackery character to it, and it's kind of wrapped in honeycomb, but definitely, back third of the palate, you can feel the flavour is taller. Then as you come further forward into the middle third of your palate, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah. So yeah, on the hoppy side of things, it's kind of what you'd expect. In the back corners of the palate, you've got a lovely little bit of earthiness in there. As you move further forward, you get a little touch of herbal character, and as you push further forward toward the front corners of your palate, it gets gradually more sort of floral, and it's got a wee bit of spiciness to it, but it's quite oily. Round the front curve of your tongue, it's a little bit lighter and a little bit grassier, so yeah, nice kind of big oily character coming out of this one. Yeah, the way that this goes together, I think, is really very nice. Yeah, it's a thumbs up from me. On the yeah, on that nice kind of oily, on the green component with this one, this is really, really nice. Yeah, I do like how this all goes together. The green component, and the general oiliness of the beer. I love these big oily, sweet New England IPAs. This one just hits the spot for me. On the fruity side of things, then, pardon me, front 30 palate, a little bit of bread crust in there, smooth kind of white bready character on top of that. Then you've got that nice oily bubble where the juicy, fruity esters roll their way out of the beer. So, have a wee look at. Let's just have a little look at that. So yeah, on that fruity side of things, that's what you'd expect. At the back of that front third of your palate, you can feel that more dense, kind of pungent passion fruit in there. Bit of peachy sharpness sitting on top of it. I wouldn't go as far as grapefruit in this one, but as you move further forward, you get this lovely, very ripe, juicy mango coming out of the beer. As you reach the middle of that front third of your palate, there's a little bit of like apricot underneath. There's a little bit of apricot underneath. There's a little bit of pie in there. And as you move into the front half of that front third of your tongue, it's all about the big oily kind of tangerine notes that come out of the beer. And there's a wee bit of a almost lemony limey character just behind the very front tip of the tongue, which is really nice too. I think that covers everything we need to say about the flavour. So let's just round off with a wee look at the mouthfeel. So as I've said, mouthfeel wise, for me, this beer, it's bottom end of full bodied, top end of mid bodied. Carbonation is very, very smooth. It's got a lovely sort of creamy character to it, lovely kind of big oiliness, I would say, as well. Yeah, lovely mix of creaminess and oiliness in there. Malt base is a slight touch of dryness underneath, a smoothness in the middle with a nice bit of density, the kind of smooth, kind of creamy sweetness on top. Then, yeah, you've got a little bit of IBU to this one, maybe sort of 40-ish IBUs, which I think is great. And then, yeah, you have this lovely little bit of kind of just oily, fruity character with this one, quite well balanced between the Citra and the Mosaic, the more kind of tropical fruity Citra and the more kind of citrusy leaning orangey citrusy leaning Mosaic. Lovely beer this, really enjoyed this. This was the Power Jams 10.5% ABV. I think we're going to do one more tasting here and that'll be the end of the video. So I'll catch you guys in a second with something else. This was Power Jams 10.5% New England Imperial Triple, whatever you want to call it, IPA. And yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. Slanger, let's go. So yeah guys, as you always get in American breweries, you have some cans that you can take away. So yeah, here they have the Set Break, which is one of their kind of sort of session IPAs, or it looks like it might be a pale ale, but then yeah, you can get a 4-pack of Grateful Jams. You can get it without the box, of course. Just another double IPA is hiding in there. They've got another one there, which is called the Brix Fest. They have the Sure as the Sun, Set Break again, Zesty Jams, Hellas Upon Us. That looks like it's a 6-pack thing there. They've got a few things down here which look like they're a little bit random, probably not for sale. If you come up here, you've got Sure as the Sun again, Zesty Jams, Grateful Jams, Jock Jams, Set Break, yeah, just another double IPA. You can get some singles apparently as well. Yeah, and then this one here, which is a Saison de Jus. So yeah, interesting little selection of things available in the takeaway cans here at Brix City Brewing. So there you go. Alright guys, well, time for our 4th and final tasting then here at Brix City Brewing. So the last beer we're going to have a look at today is a style that you don't really come across all that often in my experience, and it's quite an interesting style actually. So this last beer is the Poco Fuerte. Apparently this is the 2018 vintage, and yeah, it comes in at 10% ABV, and it is an American strong ale. So American strong ales for me, I think I've only had, you know, a handful of these on the channel over the 10 years that we've been going. The one that I really remember is the Arrogant Bastard, actually, from Stone Brewing in California. So yeah, a style that I'm not madly familiar with, but from memory the flavour profile should be quite big, malty and boozy. It should have, you know, the kind of old school sea hops in terms of flavour and aroma and things. So we'll need to see how all of this kind of pieces together. But yeah, let's have a look at this and see what it's all about. So colour-wise, you can see that this one's a lovely, very rich sort of amber. Note when it poured, it had about a half finger of a frothy, I would have said kind of fawn, ivory coloured head. That's faded away to just be a very thin foamy layer. You've got that nice kind of foamy ring around the edge of the glass there, which looks very, very nice. One or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass, a few little ones going up toward the surface as well. But yeah, overall, I think it looks pretty much as you would expect from the style, to be honest with you. A lot of the American strong ales that I've seen before look like this. Yeah, a little bit of natural haze to it. Other than that, I don't think we need to say anything about the appearance of this one. Let's have a look at the nose then and see what it's all about. I have to say, on the nose it smells really interesting. Yeah. It smells as if it's been barrel aged in maybe cognac or bourbon barrels. I think bourbon barrels would seem a little bit more logical, especially since we're in the States. Yeah, it's definitely got that kind of bourbon barrel aged type quality to it. You can smell the smooth American oak coming out of this one. A lovely little bit of vanilla. The bourbon, the sugar from the bourbon spirit's definitely there. Yeah, and on top of that, you get a little bit of a kind of wholemeal brown bready bread crust, a dense, yeah, this kind of dense and sweet brown bready character. Yeah, dense, sweet brown bready character. On top of that, you've got a little bit of a white bready note as well, for sure. But there's a lot of sweetness in this beer. I will say this is quite a malt-forward beer, both because of the barrel aging and because of the actual beer itself. You have to be aware of that. But yeah, for me, yeah, on that brown sugary side of things, you get a little bit of that leathery brown sugary character, which usually indicates a slightly longer wort boil. Yeah, so slightly longer wort boil to this one's quite obvious with that leathery brown sugar sort of thing. There's a bit of toasty brown sugar in there as well. A Werther's original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing. Yeah, Werther's original butter candy, butterscotch. And yeah, you do have that little bit of slightly like McVitie's digestive biscuity, cookie sort of thing coming out of this one. Really interesting from that perspective. I think I'm losing a little bit of hair. There, it's going down. It's stuck on the side of the glass. So there we go. Yeah. So I think it was actually stuck on the glass before, and it's been tickling my nose. But yeah, the malty, yeasty side of this beer is lovely. Big brown bready character, a lot of kind of sweet brown sugar. Yeah, aroma-wise, this is absolutely lovely on the malty side of things. Hoppy side of the beer is kind of what you'd expect. There's a little bit of smooth earthiness in there. There's a nice little bit of floral character as well. Lovely kind of grassy type character too. And yeah, lovely sort of grassiness. The fruity character in this is really nice. Big kind of peary notes. Yeah, sort of big oily pear. Yeah, big sort of oily peary characters. A little bit of an almost blackcurranty note as well. Yeah, oily pear, blackcurrant, sultanas, dates definitely too. Yeah, the green component. It's quite floral in a sense. You do have a little bit of that deeper kind of piney resin to it, but as I say, this beer I think is quite likely barrel aged, and a lot of the hoppy character will drop out over the course of the barrel aging, but it still has a significant green component to it. That's absolutely a given with a beer like this. So yeah, aroma wise, it smells really nice. I think we need to try this one and see what it's all about. So as I said earlier, this one is the Poco Fuerte. It comes in at 10% ABV, an American strong ale. This is apparently the 2018 vintage, and I think this has been aged in American bourbon barrels. So let's get stuck in. Slange, skål, cheers. Ooh. That's right up my street. This is just a big, brown, sugary, oily, sweet thing of a beer. Obviously, I got into beers on the German Rauch beers, the Scotch ales, you know, so I love these big kind of brown, sugary beers. So the American strong ale, the American barley wines, these are things that just kind of strike a chord with me. And it gives you kind of what you'd expect from the style. The American strong ale, in my experience, is usually a bit more malty and things. It gives you a bit of sweetness, but it also gives you quite a kind of hoppy bitterness. And this beer delivers on that, even though it's like a barrel-aged version of the style. Gets a thumbs up from me. It's quite interesting to try this one as well, because it's a style that I'm not madly familiar with. Yeah, this is great. Let's just break this beer down then and describe it for you a bit more in depth. So the middle third of your palate then, you can feel that lovely smooth kind of American oak forming the backbone of the beer. Further forward on that middle third of your palate, you'll get a little bit of a kind of vanilla type quality coming out of this one. And then above that you can feel the kind of bourbon, the bourbon spirit, brown sugars in there. On top of that, definitely a little bit of a wholemeal brown bready character, a bit toasty. The wholemeal brown bread is there. So and you get that sweeter brown bread on top. Then you get the fluffy white bready character as well, which again I really quite like. Yeah. So yeah, wholemeal brown bread, white bread, then you've got that nice, you've got a little bit of a toasty brown sugary layer, then you've got a circle in the middle of your palate which has this more kind of leathery brown sugary character to it, and the dead centre, pardon me, of that, in the dead centre of that middle third of your palate, you get this, you get like a little bit of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing, but then there's a wee bit of like a straight up caramel in the dead centre of your palate too. So yeah, the way that all of that goes together, I think, is really nice. The middle third of your palate gives you everything you'd expect from this beer, like quite a big thick brown bready character, the sweetness, and then of course you've got the bourbon barrel aged quality that comes out of this one as well. It's a lovely beer, this, actually. I really do like how that pieces together. Yeah, back third of your palate is quite similar. The bread crust is the woody character is a little bit drier, of course. The bread crust, the bourbon spirit's a wee bit more kind of toasty, I would say, and the bread crust is drier. The brown bready character and the white bready layer are a little bit lighter and more airy, and then you can feel some of the drier aspects of the brown sugar just kind of creeping over the top of that. So yeah, the way that all pieces together, I think, is really quite nice. On the on top of that, you've got some of the yeasty character coming out of the beer. The yeasty note for me is like this light brown bready character. It's got a little touch of it's like a like a more dense brown bready bulb, but still quite a light brown bread. Wee touch of crackery, woody sort of thing, kind of wrapped in honeycomb, and definitely back third of your palate you can feel the flavour is taller. Then as you move further forward, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. the way that this goes together is really interesting. In terms of the hoppy side of the beer, I think we've covered the malty and barrel aged side of things. In the back corners of the palate, you do get a little bit of earthiness there. As you come further forward along the sides of your palate, you can feel that deep, dank, sort of pine resiny character. I would not be surprised if Chinook and Columbus have been used in this. These beers do tend to use the classic American sea hops for sure. So yeah, a bit of spicy floral aromaticity as you reach the front corners of the palate. Behind that, it's got a little bit more of a kind of deep piney resin. So yeah, Chinook will give you the pine resin. Columbus is going to give you the kind of spicy note there. Round the front curve of your tongue, a little bit lighter and grassy, still quite oily though, a little bit zesty. Yeah, the way that the beer goes together in that regard, I think, is really nice. Yeah, I do like how that kind of pieces together in this one. For me, the fruity side of things is interesting too. So on that front third of your palate, the base is the wood obviously, then you've got the bourbon sugar, a bit of the brown bread, then you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll the way out of the beer. So let's have a little look at that. So yeah, for me, I keep saying that for me, but yeah, the fruity side of the beer, at the back of that front third of your palate, you do have a little bit of that stronger grapefruity character there, which, as I say, I suspect this beer will be using like Citra. Could be a little bit of Citra, but it's using sea hops. I think that's where I was going with that. Chinook, Cascade, Columbus. I would be surprised. Citra might be an option as well, but I think that these are the hops that are probably being used in this. It's old school sea hops, this beer. So at the back of that front third of your palate, there's the stronger grapefruit. As you move further forward, you get the more oily passion fruit, more oily mango in the middle of that front third of your tongue too. But there's a kind of oily peary character in there. And then as you move further forward, the peary character just lingers there, and you get this almost little bit of lemony limey. I'd say more of a lemony limey type note behind that front tip of the tongue. So yeah, the way the beer goes together in that regard, I think, is really quite interesting. Yeah, it gets a thumbs up from me. I think this is a really interesting beer. I mean, as I say, the American Strong Ale is a style that I'm not overly familiar with. I do enjoy them though, and this kind of bourbon barrel-aged version, I think, makes for quite interesting tasting too. And obviously this is a brewery that's better known for their New England hazies, so to try another style from this brewery that I haven't tried from them before is quite interesting too. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this review. This has been really interesting to try. Yeah, I've not even done I've just realised that this is going to my head obviously because it's 10%. We didn't cover the mouthfeel on this one. So it is, yeah, top end to mid-bodied. The carbonation is pretty smooth. Mainly a kind of oily and slick beer. It's got a bit of dryness underneath from the barrel aging. It gives you the brown sugar from the bourbon is giving you a little bit of dryness too, but smooth and sweet on top on the malt base. You've got a good little bit of bitterness from the hops. I mean, maybe 50 or 60 IBUs, something like that. You've got that piney resiny character lingering there, then the oily fruity notes. So kind of everything you'd expect from an American Strong Ale, as I said. But for me, a really nice beer, and it's taught me a little bit about a style that I'm not overly familiar with. So yeah, I think on that note, when the booze is going to my head a little bit, as you guys can probably tell, we should leave it there. But this is the Poco Fuerte 2018 vintage, a 10% American Strong Ale. Really nice beer. Enjoyed this one, and cool to get a little bit more familiarised with a style that I don't come across, pardon me, all that often in Europe. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This is my final tasting here at Brix City Brewing. I'll catch you guys outside with my final thoughts in just a second. See you very, very soon. Alright guys, well that is the end of my time here then at Brix City Brewing in Little Ferry in New Jersey. So yeah, it was really cool to come here and visit one of the kind of best rated breweries in the state, and we had a really nice couple of hours here actually. So we got to try 4 different beers. we had a little look at the kind of charity Pilsner, the Matthew's Wings, to start off with, and it was more like a cream ale than a Pilsner, which I thought was kind of interesting, and they seemed to be kind of marketing this beer as a Pilsner, which I thought was wrong. It just did not match the kind of Pilsner profile. But then after that, Matt got got a little 8-ouncer of the Helles beer, and I didn't think that really matched the style either, to be honest with you. So maybe this brewery just aren't quite at the stage where they're making really authentic lagers yet. We'll just need to wait and see. But then when we moved on to the IPAs, we had a little look at one of their kind of core range IPAs, and I thought that was really nice. As I've said on videos before, I've been enjoying the single IPAs more here in the US than I ever have in Europe. I think they've just got a little bit better body over here. Whether that's down to the use of dextrose, sugar, or more wheat and things, I'm honestly not sure. But single IPAs over in the US, I think, are at a better standard than they are in Europe. But the double IPAs and triple IPAs that we have back over in Europe are very, very good. After the single IPA, we moved on to the triple IPA, which I thought was really good. That was the Power Jams, if I remember the name correctly. Really, really enjoyed that one. And then we finished off with a look at the American Strong Ale, which, as I said, is a style I'm not really familiar with. That was really, really good, actually. A very nice place to finish. You always want to finish at a brewery looking at something a little bit more malty and a little bit more powerful, and that's been a little bit difficult to find during this trip over to the US. A lot of breweries have just been focusing on the kind of lighter styles of beer, but there's been very few things on offer in terms of more malty styles of beer. But to try an American Strong Ale was really cool, because I've not covered that style very much on the channel, because you just don't find them all that often in either Sweden or back in the motherland of Scotland. So that was really nice, and it was a very, very good American Strong Ale, I thought, as well. But yeah, overall, very positive vibes from Brix City Brewery. Very cool to visit one of the most highly rated New Jersey breweries as well. So we'll need to come back to these guys at some point in the future and see how we go. We'll definitely be doing some kind of sit-down reviews from them at some point in the very near future too. But until the next time, let's leave it at that for this one. Once again, thank you for watching my out and about videos. Big shout out to Matt of Massive Beer Reviews. Make sure you check out his channel. I'll put the link down in the video description below. Check out my social media, check out Brix City's social media, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Slàinte, skål, cheers, and catch you guys on another out and about video very, very soon. Cheers just now.